Welcome to What's My Thesis? I'm your host, Javier Proenza. Every week, my guests and I share the answers we found to the questions we have. Join us as we explore and expand our worldview through research and ask, What's my thesis? And today, my guest is Robert Ramirez, homie from the east side of Los Angeles, Montebello area. I don't know if that's where you live, but that's where we know each other because that's where we work. But
Technically Monterey Park.
yeah, but whatever.
There's a difference.
It's near the big trash heap. Like that's such a crazy thing. We literally work right next to we're totally giving away location cues. Next to like big mountains that are hollowed out so that you can just dump trash in it.
Yeah. And what's funny is I didn't know that for a long time, and I've been there my whole life.
Well, it's not like unsightly. So in terms of like making a place, like it doesn't like it's more of like I know that's there, but it doesn't smell bad.
Well, I think it's because I always saw it from a different view. So since where we work at, it's like a different point of view. You could just see like the whole you can see how tall it really is.
Yeah, you're right up close to it. So wait, so you've never like you've probably driven past it but never thought about it because over here, like I think in Miami it would probably stand out a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
like because it's all flat there for people that don't know.
Okay, yeah, I'm one of those people.
I saw it in your eyes.
Yeah, I had the blink, like, huh? So Miami.
Yeah, man. So I wanted to have you on the show, and I'm definitely gonna hype you up, not to put pressure on you to be funny, but you are low key the funniest person at work, and a guest that I've had on the show before, Ian McDaniel, agrees with me 100%. But the other reason is that you're actually a visual artist, right? So you went to what school?
I went to Art Center in Pasadena.
Arts in Pasadena, which is a pretty good school to go to, and. What was your main area of study? Because I know you draw.
Yeah, I was going there to study fine art painting and illustration.
Okay.
And
I heard that. Okay. You said was going?
Oh, well,
because it's in the past?
Yeah, it's in the past. I graduated in 2015.
Okay, it wasn't like you went in. Okay. I thought it meant like you came out. No, I thought it meant that you came out a different thing than painter.
Well,
the way you phrased it.
In a way, you can't say that because I got back into music.
Mm-hmm.
Which
back into
music.
Back into, but I'm saying back into. So you used to play music?
Oh yeah. That's a whole.
When did you start?
I started playing music when I was 13 years old, starting with the guitar.
Nice.
And then I had a band with my brother, and that was a whole other. Well, that could be a whole podcast in itself, like what that was like. But that whole thing fell apart for a lot of predictable reasons that happened to a lot of bands. And
how old were you at this time? Like when you were 13?
It lasted until I would say it fully fell apart when I was like about 20 years old.
Okay.
So 20 years old. Trying to figure out what to do next. I ended up going back to school, which I said I never would do. Mm-hmm. Ironically enough.
For an MFA?
No, I was just like community college because a friend of mine was just like, hey, I'm going to study Japanese. You should come study with me. I was like, I got nothing else going on. It was a pretty depressing time, after what happened with that. I was like, what do I got to lose? I'll study Japanese, sure.
So you spent about 7 years on that band then, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So you guys were actually going for it. This is all stuff that's, I know you, but this is
Yeah. It was
no, because you said that it I didn't really do the math until you said that it was a real hard time, and I'm like, oh shit, so you guys were actually pursuing it.
Well, that was the goal, but I was with a couple of people that weren't completely all there. The band didn't start exactly when I was 13. I would say more like 14, 15, probably I'd safe to say 15.
Yeah, but it's like your high school sweetheart kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And dude, when you're that age, man, Jesus Christ, your worldview is so easy to destroy. Right?
Yeah,
Like
very
I
unfortunate.
have relatable experiences where I was just like I thought things were gonna go a certain way and they didn't, you know?
Well, also, I mean, like listening to your talk with Ian and stuff, a
Oh,
lot of drugs involved.
yeah. Was
But
it behind this the music what would
yeah,
that show be like for your band?
it would be like becoming a borderline cult or something. My brother was kind of like almost like a Charles Manson type.
Wait, what?
He
Dude.
was very charismatic and could influence people to follow him. And I noticed it was almost like this sub culture kind of thing that revolved around the band. And I'm just like, hey, wait a minute, has anybody actually heard the music? But we would have these people like that were
Whoa.
kind of like on board with it.
So,
And
but he doesn't have a cult now, right?
no, he developed mental illness and he's in a boarding care home.
Yeah.
Um, he's doing pretty good, but there was some rocky years there.
Yeah.
Just finding out because he was developing schizoaffective disorder while doing drugs, so he had an addiction thing too, and
Yeah.
that was all mixed up into the band. And this weird like kind of philosophy he was making up, and that was just kind of like antagonistic towards the entire world. And then, well, I'm on stuff too, but I'm trying to be like the counter positive force to like to become more cohesive and like do what a band's supposed to do and like
Yeah.
make coherent songs and stuff. And um, a lot of stuff doesn't really exist anymore. I still have some stuff, some fragments of either photos or recordings and stuff, but um, a lot of that is almost just like lost to time. It was a
Yeah.
weird thing, but
What were you guys recording on?
4-track tape, not even like real like cassette tape 4-track, like one of those test cam things. So it's kind of like all lo-fi sounding stuff.
Nice, man.
Um,
Well, at least
yeah,
you have that. Like, I mean, those are definitely intense experiences, but and I can definitely I think that I would definitely based on my medical history, I'm probably closer to your brother than I am to you in in this story of just
well,
like
yeah,
when you were describing what his what the direction he was going and where you stood, I was like, oh no, but yeah, but he's a good guy, and I know he's your brother, and you feel that way. But I'm like, I definitely identify with some of those. I forget exactly what you said about how he felt it, but like, yeah, antagonistic to the world. I think it was. I
yeah,
was like, who can't relate to that? But yeah, it can be self-destructing, destructive. I also had like issues like when I was younger where like I feel like there's a thing where you kind of romanticize it, right? Like the where I was like I had a character called Self Destructo, which it's not a great name, but it was so romantic.
yeah. This is a character that you were drawing, or
Yeah,
you
so like
were the
just something that I
character.
was sketching, like
Okay,
I definitely read a lot of comics and stuff, and so it
yeah.
was like a way of like sort of uh I guess like I don't know. Maybe have you ever read The Artist's Way and all of that shit? No. Okay. The Artist's Way is basically they cover a bunch of different. It's a workshop. It's pretty good. It's for unblocking like you when you're blocked. It preaches a bunch of different things. So I forget why I brought it up. What was the thing that I was talking about just before that?
You were relating to my brother, I think.
Yeah, okay. So I think that when I started to do that, I started to actually like realize that those like delusions of grandeur kind of things that like I don't know, man. And if anyone's like listening that's kind of bipolar or manic depressive, like there is like something so intoxicating about that shit. And when you're right, you're fucking right. Like, and it's like, oh man, it's almost tragic to have that taken away from somebody. Like that feeling of like just like, oh yeah, I get the world. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. The thing is, the other guy in the band, so we ended up becoming like a trio. So my brother was the drummer, and then
First off, hold on. without mental illness, having your brother in your band.
Yeah, it's already. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah.
said predictable reasons, but
Yeah.
like this, there's other things you've mentioned since that aren't predictable. But I want to acknowledge that's hard enough, man.
I've always been. I've always ended up in creative partnerships that are always kind of volatile. Like very like
Those are creative
opposite
partnerships, I
energy.
think.
Yeah, and then but when it works, it works. It's just like
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's just like I always try to work with people who are like the least like me or whatever. It ends
Hmm.
up becoming like a more interesting combination or something.
Do you
Um,
always collaborate?
um, well, that's a funny question because I guess the answer is yes automatically, but the answer is no, kind of in a way because I'm
Well,
done
I mean,
with.
you have a beautiful background, but you mentioned you had a studio back there. Is that
Oh, I've had a lot of different collaborations, but it's more like
in
my
musical
most yeah,
collaborations?
my most fruitful one right now has been with a friend that I met at Art Center, which is kind of funny because you know how we met at I guess we met in a musical environment and then found out that we had like kind of like an art background. Well, this was the opposite. We were in an art environment and we found out we had like a music background. So
There's a lot
eventually,
of overlap. I mean, that's what kind of one of the things that the show needs to start acknowledging anyway, right? That's
yeah,
kind of why I'm having both of you guys on because I'm like, oh shit, like why am I trying to be all stuffy and shit in my definition of artist, right? But
yeah,
like, because like when I was in art school, I made a lot of beats. Some of my best bad work.
yeah, yeah. And that's kind of like actually what if I had anything like similar to a topic, it would have been like the artist musician.
Yeah.
That's like where I'm coming from.
Well, I mean, we naturally fell into it, so good job, man.
Yeah. I like to keep it natural, let it flow. Like,
No, well, I mean, literally, that's like that's what we both are, and that's kind of the vibe that we have between each other. So it makes sense that we've phased into that. So tell me more about your art background and like what you're interested in, man. Like we can just completely. This is the first time we're ever nerding out about like art criticism and shit like that. Like, first of all, I'm kind of upset that you haven't mentioned how beautiful my entirely purchased at our job background is. The one thing that
oh,
didn't get
well, I was gonna say, is that Miami Blue?
you rascal.
Which
So
one? Which amp is the one you got for free?
the Hot Rod Deluxe.
The black. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that would be my
And you know
guess.
what? You know what? I kind of want to sell the one that I paid $300 for, which is the
The Roland.
JC, yeah, the JC 22, which like I love it, but I don't really use it. So it's like this is not the biggest apartment in the world.
Mhm.
I mean, studio that I rent out at an undisclosed location.
Yeah, not Montebello.
But yeah, man. And then the one thing I want to point out is this the skylight thing. I'm probably
Yeah.
the one that's getting the most use out of that thing.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Everybody was buying those up like at the last minute. And I was like, really? Like, why does everybody want this? Oh, it's like, oh yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool enough for this, so
Yeah.
it ended up working. It was not
That
that
was,
expensive,
well,
but
at least you have a background.
yes.
I'm
Well,
like,
you have a great one. I'm very impressed. So wait, you mentioned you were doing a lot of Zoom meetings. I don't want to bring it up now, but do you have another job, or what are you doing Zoom meetings on?
no, this was church related.
Okay, all right.
I
So
gotta bring
then.
Jesus back into it. You can't get away from it.
No, it's all good, dude. Like
I'm
that's
just kidding.
that's kind of the
But
community that we work in, and dude, like I mean, that's fucking Latino culture. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like,
yeah,
like I can't be mad at that shit, and I'm from that shit, and like I said, I sometimes I have prayed. I'm not so much Niñito Jesus guy, but I am more. You speak Spanish?
no.
Okay, Niñito
Everybody thinks
Jesus
I
is
do.
is little baby Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, I can kind of piece some things together.
Yeah, but I just wanted to frame it correctly because it's very he's so cute in Latin culture, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, what you what's your practice like now? What are you making?
So the thing that I've been doing the most consistently for the past, I want to say 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
Hmm.
I've been doing a monthly radio show on NTS,
Okay.
and that started. Um, it was originally my friend's show from Art Center, and that was like 2016. He started doing that, but he was pretty deep in collaboration with me at the time, so I ended up kind of doing some of the shows too, and I eventually took over in 2019, like entirely
Hmm.
took the show over, and that's usually like I'll put together a playlist. I'll do shows where it's all original music, or I'll do shows where it's like just music that I like or whatever,
Hmm.
or a mix of both. And then I'll do like an image for it, well, something graphic mostly. A lot of drawings and collages and stuff that I'm kind of trying to. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of not reinvent myself, but like go back to where I was coming from. Like
Okay.
something
Before,
got
but
kind of lost.
what got lost where?
I want to say art school.
Okay, no, that's a common
Yeah, yeah,
conversation. Not the first time it's come up.
yeah.
Hold on, let me bring my soapbox.
Wait, hold on.
So go ahead.
It's not
So
that.
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say it wasn't that bad, like, but it did feel kind of like um, just trying to like maintain or hold on to my identity, and I've seen like other students kind of like where they started and where they ended up at the end, and it's like I think they were better before. But art school isn't everything. It's not the end, and so that's kind of like my thing. Like it feels
So
like the
you
end.
well, that's interesting because I kind of got that vibe, and I'm glad that you came. Like I totally relate to that experience. I'm kind of also in a holding pattern where basically just doing this show is keeping me so fucking busy that I can't really like. I mean, I I have a practice where the stuff that I make is a little bit more sculpture, so it's not sculptural installation based. So I work out ideas in the vague and in my head, and then when there's an opportunity to show something, I'm putting it out. But because I'm not producing that much, I'm also not showing that much, right? Like, I mean, aside from this glorious thing that I'm presenting to you right now. but but it's also kind of hard to just get anything going, right? Especially if you're rattled and you're not really like inspired, and then to go out and network for art that you're not making. Like that's why I'm having people come to me, so that I
Uh,
stay relevant when I'm like struggling through life and all of that shit. But I totally relate to that. So and I relate to having a show to just kind of like keep you focused. So how often do you produce new music? Because if you're putting entirely original shows, that's like a lot of work. I put
yeah.
beats out for shows, and I can't
Each
even
show
finish
is 2
songs.
hours, 2 hours long.
Wow.
They're not all original. Although, I mean, so the thing is, with my friend, his name's Evan. We made so much work together that I
Musical?
could just spend, yeah, so much musical work together. He's all, I mentioned before, he's a visual artist as well. Um, but we made so much uh, music together that I don't know. I mean, for the next several years, I could be using that body of work just to spend completing that. Like
Hmm.
like the first. I mean, I've released bits of it along the way,
I've
but
never heard any of this. I wish you had told me it was available. I
oh,
literally don't know you have a body of musical work. I don't.
oh well. There's a SoundCloud. Everybody kind of has like a SoundCloud.
Plug it right now and then plug it at the end too.
Okay, it's the Athenian Marketplace. So
Oh,
the
okay.
the Athenian Marketplace. That's like the name of the project, the name of the show.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Athenian Marketplace means? Like, what's the background behind that?
Sure. Yeah, it goes back to that time when after the band fell apart, and I was kind of like in this I don't know, nowhere state. Eventually going back to school, and um, I was working this horrible job at FedEx, and I was studying Japanese, I mentioned, but I discovered a lot of Japanese music in the process, and that kind of like inspired like the Athenian Marketplace, particularly like the noise stuff, um, like the boredoms and related things like that. And it's just really weird how life is sometimes, because I was at the job interview for that job I just mentioned, and I meet some guy there, and like I find out his favorite band is the Boredoms, which seemed like kind of I don't know, what's something really obscure I could use an example that you wouldn't expect somebody to know that you just come across.
I actually didn't hear what you said. Can you repeat the a guy that did what?
Oh, well, we started talking about music, this guy at the interview. And
okay.
I found out his favorite band was the Boredoms, which is like,
okay.
It's just, no, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty obscure.
Yeah. And so,
not that I'm like an expert, but yeah.
Yeah, so
it's obscure enough that I didn't know you were talking about a band.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I got confused and had to ask.
That kind of said it better than I could have ever did. But anyways, over that shared influence, we started collaborating together, and I didn't want to start another band. I wanted to start something more loose and open and collaborative that would kind of be like a personal project of mine where I could kind of explore anything. At the time,
and work with anyone.
Yeah, they could come and go as they please or whatever. Maybe sometimes it will resemble a band, but it's technically not a band. Yeah. My brother's been on parts of it, like doing drums, so even that part of the past kind of like makes its way in here and there. But I got the idea from, this is like, when did YouTube really first come out? I think this is like the beginning of YouTube.
2005, 6.
Okay, yeah. So this was like 2007.
Okay.
2006 to 2007, and I found these weird videos from like a Seattle public access TV show, which was like a literal cult led by, I believe his name was the Reverend Bruce Howard, and he would take calls in and have like weird just conversations with people or whatever. But the guy was kind of bonkers, and I was just getting a kick out of those videos, and like he would stand in the middle like with his robe on and stuff, and have like his followers to like his side, and he introduces like he's about to take the calls, and he goes, oh, here we are in the Athenian Marketplace. And I don't know why that like...
I know why, dude. That's a fucking amazing. It's like the 700 Club for like a cult that's like obscure and like pre-internet. So there's like internet cults now. There's this guy, Lord Rael, and then there's a woman that was recently like I like cults.
Ever since Heaven's Gate.
One of my favorites. Not everyone had to get castrated. You could just be chill.
I didn't know that.
Hey, other thing you didn't know. What did they drink at Jonestown? Not Kool-Aid, Flavor Aid.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did know that. Okay. Yeah,
well,
you did know. You're also a cult nerd, apparently. That's what I'm saying.
A little bit. In and out. I just like learning about stuff.
Athenian Marketplace.
Well, yeah, so it sounded so oddly kind of like...
But it's like, I thought it was like historical. This is even better.
No, it is historical when I looked into it, because
but okay, even though it's not, it's very punk. how you got to it.
Yeah, that's kind of like
You're not like a fucking nerd that was sitting on a website like reading about history and you're like Athenian Marketplace. You heard it on a public. You were going down a YouTube hole.
Yeah. Okay, I like to do things that nobody would ever want to do or whatever. Like, why would anybody want to do this or whatever? Like, or like when I do a T-shirt, I like design a T-shirt. It's like, who would want to wear a shirt of that? I don't know, but I gotta do it. You know?
Yeah.
So he sounded like he knew something, like he was smarter than me, but crazier than me at the same time. But I don't know how I didn't like look up the Athenian. I don't think I looked it up after that. But
But what's the historical? It's the market in Athens, right?
Yeah. So I made the connection. I think he was actually quoting the Bible. I think he was quoting a specific, I don't know, not passage. Well, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. There's a scene that happens in the Acts of the Apostles where the Apostle Paul goes to Athens, to the Athenian Marketplace, which is this. It was this place where people kind of discussed every new idea, and it was just like this open floor for philosophy and like all this stuff. You could talk about anything or whatever. I think probably maybe it would be like the modern day thing would be like people maybe talking about conspiracy theories or whatever, like people kind of like getting in that zone or whatever maybe. And so along comes Paul and like he's saying, you know, what he believes and all that stuff. And then they think he's weird or whatever. But I just like kind of interpreted that as just that free open space for like creative ideas. And I used that as kind of like that's my personal platform or whatever. I want to like have this open dialogue or whatever.
Well, I mean, you're talking to someone whose show is What's My Thesis, so I can totally understand. But I like that the obscurity and I like the background behind that. That is definitely very much something that I can relate to, like just being like, what the like it is. I've seen it on your like I've seen your like how often do you do the show?
Once a month.
Once a month. So
Yeah.
I follow you obviously, and I've seen your posts, and I've seen the Athenian Marketplace there. I didn't really understand what that was. It maybe should be your handle.
Yeah.
Now I'm like giving you branding advice. I apologize. No, because it's fucking dope. Like I really get it, and but I also get like the way that you're doing your Instagram. So I don't want to like make you feel like you're not doing things right. That's just
I don't know what I'm doing on there.
No, exactly. And that like I literally did the thing that sucks about art school where it's like, well, if I had that good of a brand, I would put it up front, you know, like where like people critique your artwork and they tell you what they would do to it, which is not necessarily what you would do to it. So I want to acknowledge that, but I do think that that's dope, and I think the whole story behind the Athenian Marketplace and how you got there as your like moniker, that's really cool, man. These are things that we would not have time with our boss, like looking over our shoulder and being like, "Are you guys talking? What the fuck are you guys doing?"
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that I ended up getting kind of a following in Korea through my friend who I started working with Evan later on towards the time when I was about to graduate. And that's when the sound really started developing. That's kind of like when the Athenian Marketplace became kind of what it is today. And so he's actually from Korea, and then he's friends with other like Korean producers, and then they kind of caught on to it. And then so like there's fans over there that are kind of into it, which is funny because
I feel so bad that I haven't listened to this. Like I wish I had like commentary to give on like episodes. I literally didn't know. I mean, I knew you did a show, but how can I get to it, man? Like, is the link in your bio?
There's a link in the bio.
So it's on me.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty bad at promoting too, anyways.
Okay.
But yeah, it's all there. I mean, I still haven't posted the last show. That one was like on the 1st of this month.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
And
that was up
it's
there.
fair not to want to do what I'm doing. It's exhausting.
Yeah. Uh, well,
Like
you're doing it more often than I am. 'Cause I'm doing like a 2 hour show once a month, and yours is like
once
what?
a month is still, dude, you're doing 12 shows a year. That's still like I used to do 26 and I would do what you do and split them in half.
Okay.
So that's I like that's not easy.
Well, I appreciate it because it kind of it gives me I need deadlines. I need a
Yeah.
deadline, and then also it just gives me that opportunity to kind of like indulge in the weird creative side that I don't really get to so often nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of times the mix will veer off into like weird territory, like where I'll just make my own sound collages from songs that were in the mix.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Ian was kind of like Ian's heard some of it before, and one
Ian
night
Ian is that
Ian
kind
was
of
doing it,
person.
huh?
No, Ian is that kind of person who will listen to your shit.
Yeah, he was almost gonna mix some of it, but something else happened. Which, by the way, the album was supposed to come out this summer, so um, yeah, hopefully that happens. There's been some bumps in the road with that happening.
Oh, like COVID?
Um, no, well, not really COVID. COVID kind of actually freed me up to finish a lot of this stuff, but stuff with like a label and all that. But
Oh, so you're working with a label to drop this stuff.
well,
Where?
that was the plan. Yeah,
In
that one's
where
been done.
local label is local or is it in Korea? You
They
mentioned
were
Korea.
they were they were local and then relocated to Texas. So that was kind of another like setback. And then some people left and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. So well, it'll get out there this year one way or another. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like where we actually literally tackle K-pop itself. So the songs are really just like weird mangled reinterpretations of not even reinterpretations, but kind of riffing off of K-pop samples, but sound absolutely nothing like where they came from. Um,
Hmm.
Kind of hard to describe. You just kind of have to hear it yourself.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm looking forward to, man. Um, and so how's like so you mentioned that you're spending time posting essentially like one drawing or collage a month, right?
Pretty
So
much
yeah,
to go with that.
that's more than I'm doing right now. So
Well, I do.
so you still have like a lot more active. Seriously, dude, I'm not like I would not, like I'm impressed by what you're doing. Like I was not this active. I completely abandoned art and music for a long time, trying to be like a practical person. So I think that it's honorable that despite having like uh, art school burnout, you're still trying to stay connected with it. You know. So tell me more about the art that you're drawing.
Well, actually, I'll get like commissions here and there, but mainly it's for people's music releases. Like I don't know, I did Ian's. That was like an ink drawing that he wanted. I've done one for my brother, my other brother. Um, he put out an
How
album.
many siblings do you have?
I technically have three. Well, I have an older half sister and two younger brothers, but mostly grew up with the brothers.
Okay, that's the technically part. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't really meet my sister till I was a teenager,
Okay.
and then she's
Go
in and out.
back to the drawing. Back to the drawing. Sorry.
Yeah. So my main thing was kind of like oil painting, but you know when you're in school, you kind of like take that for granted, like because it gets so normalized painting in oils, but it's really like I don't know if I want to call it a luxury or a privilege. I guess it is. I mean, it's pretty expensive, and you need time to do it. But I mean, like anything else, you need the dedication to do it. And I've always had that kind of dilemma of like juggling that with like the other stuff I want to do, like the music and all that. But I'm doing a painting now for my brother's second release. So that'll be fun because I haven't painted in like uh 5 years. Yeah, I haven't done an oil painting in like 5 years. So
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I studied photography and I barely take pictures on my iPhone. So, you study something, you learn mechanics of a practice, and then you adapt them to what you actually want to say, right? Because, like, essentially, like, if you're learning how to paint and you don't want to do be stuck in the limitations of painting. I'm trying to transfer it from photography and speak to you as if you're me. But
okay.
like but like if you're transferring that shit, it takes a while. And it seems like you're focusing on a skill that you also studied while you were in school, even though it wasn't what you were studying. I totally relate to this, by the way. That's like I made beats. That's also a luxury.
Yeah.
Like same shit. Like you had time where you were not getting paid, paying it forward to yourself to have the fucking time to like express things creatively, and now you've gone through like a critical ringer where like people have like sat down and analyzed all your ideas while you're still pretty young, like right, like you're not like um you don't go to like your BFA for art and then expect to like have your best work come out of that, right?
No, it was the opposite. Oh man, I don't think there's a lot of stuff that survives from my time in college. I gave a lot of it away or got rid of it or something.
And it was mostly painting. What were you painting back then?
I was really into um, old master stuff. I wanted to learn how they painted, like, because I'm really into history and stuff. So I was coming at painting from more of like a
If you're
historical
really into
perspective.
history, we're gonna have you back on. But go ahead, say that
Okay.
again.
Yeah, so I just wanted to learn that whole process of like how when oil painting first was kind of becoming a thing through like glazing and then more direct painting and stuff. So um my favorite painters at the time were like Velasquez and Rembrandt, which I used to kind of find boring. When I started painting myself, like it kind of like I saw them in a whole different new way, and how weird they actually are, those paintings.
You
Uh,
grew up in Monterey Park. Where'd you grow up?
yeah. Well, the very first years of my life were in like Alhambra, then went to West Covina for a bit, and then my parents split up and went back to Monterey Park. Well, I say back because uh, my mom grew up in Monterey Park,
This
and
is like such California nuance.
yeah, it's like sometimes I put a little too many details that I
No. I'm not trolling you. I'm just like, no,
for all
but
intents
I'm.
and purposes, you could say I'm from Monterey Park because I've been here since I was 9 years old. Yeah, but
No.
it feels like a separate part of my life um, before Monterey
No,
Park.
but the question was more based around the
The painting.
well, like I can see how it would be boring if you're like living out here in Monterey Park. Like it's a very different experience. Like I didn't really like even I used to find Rembrandt kind of boring too, and I like it's not. I mean, it's more of like a didactic thing, like right, like and but then when you start to like understand what the Dutch people were doing and you contextualize it in the history, like then you're like, oh shit, like these
Yeah,
guys were like really lonely people. Like some of the best painting comes from like places that are rainy and awful, like Florence.
yeah. Well, I even like the Dutch still lifes now. Like still life. I
Yeah.
mean, that used to be like very uninspiring, but now when I look at those, it's like, dang, like I don't know. It seems so counterintuitive the way like they painted those. Like the way you think you would render like a lemon peeling or something. Like they're able to do it with like this like impasto that's like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how they did it, but
Well,
Well,
so you are a painter at least, because I mean, I'm not saying that you're going to be painting for the rest of your career, but there's definitely a painter streak there. Like I've talked to enough painters to know that like you're excited about the right things to be called a painter.
yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's really weird. It was more of a thing that I related to like through books, history books, seeing reproductions of the paintings, like reading that, oh, oil on canvas or oil on panel, whatever. And it just became like this kind of like a mystery in my mind, like what the heck is oil paint? It didn't make sense to me, so I eventually tried it out. And like one of those intro painting classes, you do everything, watercolor, gouache, acrylic, and then oil. It was like that, and like oil was like the most challenging out of all of them to me. Like where I wanted to come back and like try again and try again. Where a lot of people are kind of like, oh, I don't like, oil's finicky. I don't like the smell, or it takes too long to dry, stuff like that. The things that kind of like make people not want to paint were kind of like what brought me back to it.
Yeah.
It just had a unique feel of its own, and very like um, very sympathetic to being more expressionistic, if I'm even using that right. People are going to think of literal expressionistic paintings, but I mean, just like expressing yourself as an artist. I feel like I have more freedom with oils than a lot of other stuff.
Hmm. Have you ever worked with other media?
Yeah, well, like paint or just entirely different. Like,
Entirely different, like other mediums.
yeah, I was trying everything I could possibly try before I transferred to art center. Even in art center, I still kind of experimented a bit. But did some sculpture. I did like wire sculptures. I used to like to stitch things by hand. I would do like really kind of um, if you see like my ink drawings, they're kind of there's a lot
I
of
like your ink
flashy.
drawings, by the way.
Thank you.
Those I have seen.
Thank you.
I'm a huge fan of ink drawing in general.
Yeah, yeah. I like to keep drawings more like ink, and then like for color stuff, I prefer painting for that.
We both learned the same ways.
Yeah.
I sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, I was just gonna say that
Other
just the
mediums.
same like repetitive kind of like that intense kind of focused kind of like stitching process. I've done that like with sculptures, like stitching things together like needle and thread or using wire. But I was doing ceramics for a while. Um,
So it's one definite thing that. So I actually know I am not a painter because I really like painting and appreciate it. I did get into oils, but I just don't have the attention span for like that kind of practice, right? I respect it a lot. I feel like if that had been a thing that I was into, I saw the depths of it, right? Like I saw the potential of spending years. Like my painting teacher was this dude. Okay, I was taught. I went to art school in Florence, and I was taught by this guy whose fascination was with painting at this depth, right? So he would paint floors in sienna and stuff like that, and put croissants and like a cigarette butt, something like that. Like this was the span of depth,
that's how
and
thick the
like,
paint was.
huh?
That's how
No,
thick.
no, 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 no. Perspective wise,
Okay.
right? Like nothing was in the plane beyond like let's say that thick, right?
Uh-huh.
Like if you were looking down on the or like it's a painting of the floor, right? And it has a croissant on it.
Mm.
That's the thing that's uh breaking third dimension the most. And then you have the relief of the floor and all of these little details. So that was my fucking painting teacher. And I was into it and I was like, God damn, plein air painting. Oof. It is so amazing. I have a painting here that I still have that I made that I did out of my window. At some point I will invite you over so you can see it. But like, and we can talk more about painting because I'm into this. Like, I was really into it. Drawing, I think, is the thing that I like more
Mhm.
because it's fast, and the way that I learned to draw was very quick. And so, but when I'm looking at painting, like, for me there were so many things. Like, I love value and I love all of that, but for me photography, figuring out how to print something perfect and getting that yellow out of the whites and getting that cyan out of the whites, like all of those little details, like, well, it just made me like really excited. The process was really cool. You would go, you would throw something in, it would come out, and then you put it on the wall, and you'd be like, no, it's not right. I got to do it again, right? Whereas like with painting, it's like, fuck, dude, it's a whole different process. So there's something to process. So I definitely, like, if you get anything out of this conversation, I want you to know that you are a painter,
Okay,
because
I'll take
because
that.
and I'll say this: I studied painting with a fucking psychopath master that knew his shit in Florence, and I decided I wasn't a painter.
Okay.
You learned it in Monterey Park,
Well,
and you love that shit. Like, holy shit, you're a painter, bro.
okay, I see what you mean. Because from my perspective, it looks like you had the real like.
Yes, you would be fucking envious of my shit, and
Yeah.
like, and I was like, I'm taking pictures,
Um,
like, and I don't take pictures anymore. But it was like, it was just like what for me, I guess pictures at that, looking back, I had limited time there, and I wanted to like capture it more immediately than like sitting down. Like, I could walk around, get drunk, and hang out with everybody when I was in my 20s, and like take pictures. And that's like that's another romantic thing. That's like an old lost art, right? Like, just walking around with a camera around your neck.
yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
understanding light from that, like, it's all about light. I was just interested in like all of the different like ways that light showed up on film, which boo to me because that shit is archaic and like no one cares.
Did you ever do like a pinhole camera?
Yeah, I've done all that
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I've done that. That's about as close
yeah.
as I've gotten to. But
To photography, you have
yeah,
an
yeah,
iPhone.
yeah.
You've made people. Your iPhone makes people like that. Makes what I studied obsolete entirely.
Well, that's why I use a Samsung. No, just kidding.
Do you have a Samsung? I don't even know.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
do.
answer that. Okay. All right, we got a debate going on. iPhone versus Samsung.
Well, I
No, no,
mean
I'm
Samsung
kidding.
because okay, I won't even go into why.
Anyway, so what do you think, man? Like, what are you like? Are you excited about painting? Are you excited? What, like, is there anything else that you're interested in trying out?
Yeah, a lot of it. I mean, it all feels connected in some way or another. But like I briefly mentioned, designing T-shirts and stuff like that. I've kind of always
Mm,
um, wanted to delve into that or more of like graphic kind of stuff. Like I was mentioning the artist musician kind of idea, and
mm-hmm.
a lot of my favorite groups were like had a hand in or were really good at designing their own album covers or merchandise stuff like that went along with it. I think that's also like a big part of like punk rock or whatever. It was kind of like how the visual element that tied in along with the sound, and a lot of that was through fashion or um yeah. It's funny though because like everything's digital now. Like
Mm-hmm.
not many people are buying like records or CDs, but
That's not
so
necessarily true.
well, collectors, I guess.
I mean, there's definitely like a subculture for it. Or there's a market for it, let's say. But I think more so than with like now that it's either MP3. I don't think people give a shit about CDs, right? So I think that like now that that's gone and people don't like, like when I was younger, it was like having the album art, like having the sleeve. You didn't give a fuck about the case. You wanted to have the sleeve, and if you wanted to get rid of the case, you took out the back part so that you had the song listings,
Yeah,
right? But like that's garbage. Like it's much nicer to have a fucking LP,
yeah.
right? So I think it's valid. Like and now the fact that music is so separated from that, like I think it's valid to have like this objectness to music, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead. I'm just encouraging your excitement for this. I'm not.
Okay.
You dismissed what you were saying, and I was like, no, I think that's fucking legit. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if I was necessarily saying it was like a totally negative thing, but it is a little bit of a challenge to try to think about it a little differently. I don't know how to bring it forward. I mean, I kind of am intrigued by things like that, because I mean, I grew up. I guess like I feel like I'm the last of that generation that like before the internet really took over and like everybody was downloading stuff. I was like, I had like the first phase of my musical discovery was like through buying like the physical, like CDs or whatever. And then it went into the downloading era where like, MP3 blogs and stuff. And now that's
Music had
gone.
no value. It
It didn't, but well,
had experiential value, but like to the artist, like it was like where musical artists were treated like visual artists.
yeah, yeah. So it's just I don't know where everything's headed, but I mean,
No, you don't. I'm not. You're not expected to. I'm just like sort of enjoying the brainstorm. But I
yeah,
do
but
like, and I didn't mean to say like that you were entirely negative. But I do feel like there is like I think that people still want to connect with physical objects. Like if you really fucking like if I
obviously
like
like, people care about visuals a lot still. I mean, look at Instagram or whatever.
no, but I'm
So
just saying like in terms of like making because it's interesting because you're kind of talking about and this is a fair thing. You've talked about a lot of things that I relate to after having gone through art school, where it's like there's like a sense of how can I be pragmatic about art. I don't think that's necessarily. I don't think you're starting a T-shirt company or you're starting a label, right? Like, but I think there's also like knowing you. I think that an interesting like there's an interesting thing where it's like you're making art, but it's also a product, and I think that that's valid. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, is that that's not offensive to you?
no, no, I
Okay.
don't think
Okay.
I'm.
No. 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 Because people. No, I mean, my
I
generation.
know people can find that offensive. I've been in art school.
Yeah. But I
Yeah,
think, but I think that's interesting, and I think that that's cool because it's like you're not saying you want to be a graphic designer. You're saying you want to work in these mediums, and I think that that's interesting because as a photographer or as someone that started in photography, like this is kind of where I'm like these are the things that I want to know, right? Like because you're in this place, you're sort of not sure where you're going. You started in painting. I started in photography. I went in my direction based on the things that the discipline taught me, and for you, it sounds like the objectness of things is interesting, right? Because and as a painter, that is funny because you guys are considered 2D, but you deal with big ass canvases or
yeah.
pieces of wood, right?
There's a whole like tactile kind of component to it.
Yeah,
Very physical.
yeah. And then the music ties it all in for you. So it's something that you're like, and there's a historical bent on it. Like I think that like you're in a good place, man. Like I mean, and not as somebody who's like practices like taking off or anything like that, but like in terms of like if this was a studio visit and we're talking about like what matters to us, I think that's really cool. I think that like um, I think that that's a space that exist what year were you born in?
84.
84. Oh, good year.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting year. It was a leap year. don't know if anybody knows that, but it was.
I was born on May 4th, and every year people are like, "May the 4th be with you." And now, like, I can't imagine what Orwell,
Yeah.
what your relationship to Orwell is, being born in 1984, and just being like, that's like a commonplace reference of how like dystopia, and we may not be like in the happiest place in the world right now.
No, no. I hope people realize that.
Yeah,
No, I hope when I say yes, I was born in 1984, like they get this sense of like, no. Wait,
it
what?
registers. I'm 80.
Oh, 80. That was a good year too. I think.
I
Well,
mean, it's easy
in
for
terms
math
of,
purposes. I always know how old I am.
yeah.
My dad doesn't know how old he is because it's like he has to do math every year, and he doesn't do it every year because it's depressing.
Wait, let's do some math right now. You said you're born May 4th, 1980.
Yeah, I'm 41.
Okay, so
You're 36, right?
37. Now, I
37.
was just trying to calculate how long John Lennon had to live after you were born.
Well,
To the
that says a
day.
lot about that. That says a lot about why we're friends.
And that sounds like I was making a joke, and maybe I kind of was on one level, but it wasn't really funny.
No, I thought that was amazing. It was a great thought, like, because someone who likes cults and true crime. Okay. So here's a funny thing that happens at work, and I guess we can start wrapping up, and we can promote everything that like you and me. But so I listen to a true crime podcast that's pretty intense, right? Like they talk about the goriest stuff, but it's a comedy podcast. It's called Last Podcast on the Left. They're super huge. Like they don't need my promotion, but I'm doing this gesture because I put it in my shirt pocket of my employee shirt, right? And I listen to it, and then sometimes like so at one point I connected to the Bluetooth, one of the Bluetooth speakers up in the front where everybody, how like people play music at work, so like that's not like so that we don't go insane.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to hear that country song again.
Yeah. The only song I like is "We're Always Making Plans for Nigel."
Oh yeah, yeah, XTC. Yeah.
So sometimes something happens where they're like stop playing music, and then there's like it starts searching for other Bluetooth things, and my horrible crime podcast gets blasted at full volume at the front of the store, and I have to like be like, oh shit, I gotta stop this. But it'll be like, and then she was like dead.
Dude, I can't believe I was never there when that happened.
No, it's random. It's mostly in the morning. But yeah, it's like it's one of those things where I'm like, let the space get a little bit of my stink.
Well, I don't know if that's as disturbing as when I played Captain Beefheart, like while we were closing. Ian was like, show me the weirdest thing you got. And I'm thinking like, okay, well, like, I'll show you educational weird. Like, so I played Trap Mask Replica. And
I haven't. You're saying that like I know what any of this is, so you're gonna have to explain why it's so horrific.
If you know, you know, but you should listen to it just to, you'll know when you hear it.
I can't wait to listen to your curation of music now.
Oh yeah. Once a month, the Athenian Marketplace, NTS Radio. And two of the other guys that were closing with us, I don't know if I should name them, were flipping out. Like it was like they were being tortured. Like they're literally strapped to a chair and like tortured. And it's just like, man, this is like one of the best albums ever made. But that's how you know when.
What kind of music is it? Is it like punk or?
No, this is like from 1969, and it's like.
69, bro. No, sorry.
It's completely its own thing. It's people will say like avant-garde blues, but that's just one little thing.
Element of it.
Yeah, it's its own thing. It's
What? But is it? The way that you describe their reaction to it is that it was nails
they
on a
think it's
chalkboard.
noise, total garbage noise, like everybody playing separate things at the
Well,
same
you
time.
went to art school, so you should understand where they're coming from. All
Yeah, that's gonna be
right,
the
man.
initial thing, but the initial impression. But yeah, anyways, I'll let you wrap up.
Yeah. So, what? So you are. What's your Instagram at Hoodpass?
Hoodpass.wick.
Wick. What is Wick?
Well, Wick is like if you were poor, your mom had to go on it.
Okay.
Kind of like a welfare thing. So that's like my hood pass or whatever. No, the part of Monterey Park that I'm from was technically East LA, so
Okay. East LA. I remember my first experience of knowing what East LA was. Born in East LA with Cheech Marin,
yeah.
and he did not make it sound like it was great, but he said it definitely seemed like it was fun in that '70s way. That's kind of weird, and it's like, oh, this is like you guys are being traumatized.
Yeah. Probably romanticized now. You know,
Yeah, he didn't really romanticize it. It was actually one of the more boring ones. So, because
just
when I was
watch
a
Up and
kid,
Smoke.
huh?
Up and Smoke is probably all you need, right?
Yeah, exactly. When I was a kid and I was like, "Hey, I want to see '70s movies," like it wasn't really like uh, hitting that spot, right? Like it wasn't Dazed and Confused or any like it wasn't accessible. It was like kind of serious.
Well, wasn't that like his breakthrough, like sellout movie or whatever?
Oh, was it? I don't know. I just remember it being kind of a bummer.
Oh,
But maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it was like a total like corporate sellout thing.
I guess maybe because like he wasn't doing. I don't know. Was he doing drugs in that movie? I don't even remember.
Oh, is that why you're a sellout? Because you're not doing drugs? Because you're
He's no
bettering
longer with
yourself?
Chong.
I think that's what it was that was weird about it. That
No
like, because
Chong.
you're, yeah, he's usually riffing with him. I have
Yeah.
no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm talking about a memory that I have from when I was like 15 years old smoking pot and trying to understand pot culture before like
That was
pot
the
culture was
wrong
a pot
Cheech movie
culture.
to do it.
Like while people were still getting arrested for it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they still are. My apologies. But that's even worse.
To get arrested for it. Well, while you're
now
still
now when
smoking,
it's like
you'll feel
legal
like
is
you
like the
are.
most fucking hypocritical thing. Or getting kicked out of the Olympics. Not to like timestamp this episode because it's not going to be released anywhere soon, but
Anywhere in this era.
decade. All right, man. We're just talking shit. We can do this after I wrap up the episode.
Okay.
So don't go anywhere. Let me just stop recording. Thank you guys for joining the show. I am at What's My Thesis. You are at hoodpass.wic, and you are at, or you, Robert, is at. And then, do you have a website for the Athenian Marketplace?
All that is through the link in the bio on Instagram. So it'll take you to the NTS website. It'll take
You
you to
are
the
so
Southside website.
synergized, man. Like,
Well, it took me long enough to finally get it all together.
and then I am at What's My Thesis. If you guys have anything that you want to comment on, you can always do that on YouTube. And I will definitely try to respond as long as it's not mean to me or my guest. And if you like the show, you can like us on everywhere that you listen to podcasts. And we have a Patreon. And hopefully the economy is doing well enough that it's not shady for me to promote it. But we're at what'smythesis.patreon.com if you guys want to help us move shit along. Thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you guys so much for listening. See you guys next week. What did you think of our conversation? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our merch store. Special thanks to our patrons. To become a patron, go to patreon.com/what'smythesis. All the links are in the description below.